Well, good evening, everyone. This is Michael O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for September 12, 2019, recorded around 5:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, we do now have what was Invest 95L, which has now been declared Potential Tropical Cyclone 9, which is just another designation basically for saying a storm has not formed yet, but they are starting advisories because a system will begin to form relatively shortly. And that is the case with Potential Tropical Cyclone 9. Tropical storm warnings issued for portions of the Bahamas. Basically, this does include portions of Ground Albaco, the Grand Bahamian Islands, Freeport, those areas that were ravaged by Hurricane Dorian, once again under the threat from what will be possibly Tropical Storm Humberto within the next 24 to 36 hours, as it will continue to jog sort of towards the west-northwest. Again, we are watching for exactly where a center forms, and recon that is in there right now. This is from tropicaltidbits.com. Levi Cowan, he's a great guy from Florida State University. Has not really found a closed center of circulation yet, as they have begun to enter into the convection area of PTC 9, but they have not been able to determine a closed low pressure area yet. Pretty elongated and a very sharp trough axis that is extending up sort of like this. That might help to conjugate the low somewhere up in this region, but it is also possible that the low could also form further towards the north and east. And what that would do is kind of carry it towards the northeast or northwest, and then maybe make that curve almost like a Dorian-ish track. But there's a lot on the table that is still yet to be kind of determined. And once we get the Hurricane Hunters, the Hurricane Hunter data in there, all the dropsons, things will start to kind of come into play. And once we get an established center, we can start to understand what is going on. So PTC 9 is being issued by the National Hurricane Center. It's a potential tropical cyclone. Winds right now about 30 miles an hour, 1,008 millibars, moving northwest at 8 miles per hour. You can see there's a tropical storm warning for the northwestern Bahamas, the Abacos, Berry Islands, the Grand Bahamian Island, and New Providence. These are some of the areas that were ravaged by Hurricane Dorian only a few short weeks ago. And this is the last thing those people need. So if you're in those areas, this is the last thing you want to see and want to hear. But unfortunately, you got another system coming your way. This will not be a Dorian 2.0. This will not be there in terms of the intensity or the wind speed and storm surge. But heavy rain, some gusty winds, that can hinder the recovery process from Dorian in those ravaged areas that need help badly. So the rescue efforts and the recovery efforts may be hindered potentially significantly depending on where this exactly goes and how strong it is and the amount of rainfall those places get. But again, this is a very significant situation for those areas, not in terms of wind, but just in terms of being hit again by yet another system. That's the last thing they want to hear. Maximum sustained winds are near 30 miles an hour with higher gusts, and this is expected to become a depression or storm in the next day or so, about up to an 80% chance here. So, and pressure is about 1,008 millibars. Tropical storm conditions are expected within the warning area by late Friday. So that's by tomorrow. Tropical storm conditions are expected by later tomorrow in portions of the warning area. So that goes to say that you could have a tropical storm by tomorrow in those regions, with 2 to 4 inches of rain and another potentially 7 inches of rain and isolated maximums in the northwest and central Bahamas. No storm surge, no significant storm surge in the northwestern Bahamas currently expected, but you don't need any more rain. You don't need a lot of significant rain. Maybe an inch would be fine, but you don't need the amount of 4 to 7 inches of rain that could be coming down across portions of the Bahamas. You just don't need that in this ravaged area. Taking a look at the track forecast, this is from the 5 o'clock advisory, the first advisory on PTC 9. You can see tropical storm warnings issued for portions of the Bahamas. That includes portions that were ravaged by Hurricane Dorian, the Abacos, and the Grand Bahamian Island. This is expected to make landfall, but again, there's a little bit of a complicating factor. If this forms a little bit further to the north, a true center, this thing could just turn out like this and follow a Dorian path. But if this congeals a little bit further to the south, this thing will be kind of riding up like that. The official forecast takes a blend of these two solutions and model guidances and basically makes landfall here in the southern portion of Florida, just north of West Palm Beach, as a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm, and then inland as a depression. And by Sunday, it is near Jacksonville. Again, there's a lot of uncertainty with this. So there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of conditions that could change between now and tomorrow. And I want to make that very clear that there's a lot of things that can change between now and tomorrow, both intensity, well, not so much intensity-wise, but more so where a true center forms. If we get a big blow-up of convection tonight and a center forms, watch out. Exactly where this thing is going to go, still too early to determine. But again, the official forecast has us making landfall as a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Not significant, but enough to bring some wind, maybe an isolated surge event, certainly some isolated tornadoes, and heavy rainfall across portions of Florida, west and north Palm Beach, or north of West Palm Beach, and for portions in the Bahamas that were ravaged by Hurricane Dorian that really don't need any additionals. And you can see that it sort of starts to stall out here, and this is kind of what the European model has been suggesting. We'll take a look at that in a minute. But again, Georgia also in the cone, South Carolina in the cone, portions of northern southwestern North Carolina are also in the cone of uncertainty. So there's a lot that could change, and anyone from obviously in the Bahamas now to Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, they need to be monitoring the progress of this system. We had the same deal with Dorian. We'll go through the same deal here with PTC 9, which will become Humberto probably in the next day or so. Taking a look at the forecast discussion here, again, these are just PTC 9 is being initiated because it's close to land, and this could develop into a system very soon. So the system is still under influence of strong shear environment. There is still a lot of wind shear that is going into that system. A vigorous trough is kind of enhancing this a little bit. It is going to move as an intensifying system very close to the east coast of Florida. The NHC forecast has opted for a solution of these latter models. However, it is emphasized that given the model discrepancy, both track and intensity forecasts are highly uncertain, more than the forecaster would say, and forecaster Avelia wrote this. So again, 50 miles per hour upon landfall, expected to be a tropical cyclone within about 24 hours or so. So again, this is going to be a very important system to kind of monitor here. We'll take a look at the GFS model. This is the 12Z run today. The 18Z model is initialized soon. And this is valid about 6 hours out. You can see we currently have this little bit of vorticity here. This is what is PTC 9. If you go to the this is the 18Z vorticity, you could see the stretched out vorticity. We want to see a bundling of the vorticity, like here. This is Invest 90E in the 90E in the Pacific, in the Eastern Pacific. We want to see a bundling of energy like that here with for a good, healthy system. So far, this is pretty stretched out, but where exactly this energy concentrates will be very key. If it concentrates more to the north, this could have implications on track and intensity. Or if it goes further south and bundles closer to Cuba, this could, come into Florida weaker and not really pose much other than a rainfall threat. So there's implications to where this vorticity tries to actually bundle up. And we go to the GFS forecast out for about 24 hours. You can see the GFS is much weaker basically only with a sharp trough axis about right here, and with a sharp trough axis but not any vorticity, that continues to stretch it more off towards the west. And you can see within about 42 hours what is here of what is PTC 9 is over southern Florida, very weak and unorganized, and by 60 hours it moves across into here. Compare that with the European model. This is the ECMWF forecast 12Z model run, and this is its 24-hour forecast. Bundling of energy here north in the northern Bahamas here, heading pretty close to Grand Albico, and this is actually the Albicos here and Freeport. This is exactly where Dorian was. Not to freak out, but you need to be on attention, on alert here. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for these islands over here. But you can see basically the ECMWF, the European model, has a solution like this. It is a strong concentrated system approaching Florida, and by 72 hours that kind of scoots up almost like Dorian did. So again, a lot to watch here. If you get a concentration of energy further to the north, the European model could have something. If it goes further to the south, the GFS could also have something. So it's a tug of war on exactly what forms where, and the atmosphere is a fluid. These model runs are not gospel. They do not have to happen. These are only guidance models. So there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of things that could happen over the next few days. The track guidance for the 18Z guidance from the spaghetti plots. This is also from tropicaltidbits.com, and you can see the mean here pretty much. You know, they want to bring it here into Florida. That's what the National Hurricane Center has opted to do at this point in time. But again, you could still have tracks that remain out to sea, or it could be weaker and head further towards the west. So again, anyone really from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina need to be paying attention, and certainly the Bahamas need to be paying very close attention to the progress of this system. Regardless, most of the models do indicate that this will become a tropical storm at some point in time in its lifespan. So again, a lot to cover here with potential tropical cyclone 9, with advisories just now being issued. As to the 5 o'clock advisory, we will have an intermittent advisory at 8 o'clock because we do have warnings that are in effect. Again, interest along the east coast of Florida should monitor the progress of the system. But again, anywhere from Florida to South Carolina needs to be watching the progress of potential tropical cyclone 9. Also, not to be outdone, we do have what will soon be Invest 96L, which will be a threat to the Lesser Antilles and Barbados later in the week. Interest across there should also monitor the progress of what will be 96L eventually. Nothing to hype up here. Again, we like to keep it no hype. You just want people to be aware of what is going on here across the tropics. A lot to talk about, a lot to get done over the next couple of days. Again, people in the Bahamas, especially the Albicos and Freeport, need to be monitoring progress of Dorian, and then up Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, really anywhere need to be monitoring the progress of PTC 9. So again, a lot to watch here. We will have it covered here. I may have another video update out by the intermittent advisory. If not, I will certainly have one out tomorrow. Well, that is going to do it for me right now. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. I will be back either later tonight or tomorrow. Have a great day.